Hello, thank you for having me here. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Mantzaris, and I'm a director from Sweden, but I live in here in London now. And I have worked with many mediums, but now I work almost only in stop motion. And I'm just going to talk through a bit my career, almost like a timeline, how I've come to where I am now, and a bit about how I find it to work in the industry. And yeah, I don't have a show reel, so I'm just going to show you a few stills in the beginning to show you a bit how my work looks like. So I'm from Sweden, and I studied my BA in Norway, animation. And I always like to draw a lot. I went to Art Foundation first, and I always like to draw a lot, so and then I was like, animation sounds interesting. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to apply and go there. And when I came there, because I always like to draw, I thought I would be doing 2D animations. I was doing quite a lot of 2D in the beginning, but then we had a stop motion workshop, and then I was like, this is so much more fun for me. I like 2D as well, but for me it was just much more right, because I always like to work with materials and with my hands. And since then I've been doing mostly as much stop motion as I can. And my last year I collaborated with my classmate Erik, and we did a short film called But Milk is Important. And the story is about a man who is afraid of people, and one day this really weird creature shows up in his flat and starts following him around and accidentally pushing him into social situations. And the creature is the worst nightmare for the man, but for everyone else it's really cute, but for him it's the worst thing he can think about. And I'm going to show you the trailer. It's online if you want to watch it later. The whole film is online if you want to see. And we didn't we had a short workshop in stop motion, but we didn't learn that much. We were not taught so much from the school, but we basically used internet and looked for everything and order materials and look tutorials, how you do stuff and so on. And I'm not going to talk so much of the making of this, because I think I finished it in 2012, so it's quite a long time ago. But one topic I'm interested in is improvisation and spontaneity, and that's quite hard when you work with stop motion, because it's almost the opposite, because in stop motion it's so time consuming that you need to plan everything, and you need to know exactly from which angles you're going to shot, exactly what you need to make, how long each shot is. So I think I'm always interested in how you can combine these two stuff, or to keep some sort of feeling of being spontaneous, or get an idea along the way of making a stop motion, and how you can imply it, or be open for those ideas. And I also found that sometimes improvisation, because I think if you are open to improvisation, and when you see something you're oh, this could be funny, or this could happen, it's it gives something else to the film, rather than just you have decided everything from the beginning and then you just follow a plan. I think it's nice to keep a little bit of spark in the project. And like sometimes you can need to improvise because of mistakes, which can also turn out really good sometimes. And like one example I wanted to show was when we did this film, because you don't normally shoot like chronologically in stop motion, you shoot like everything from one angle and then everything from a different angle, whatever like logistically makes most sense. So we had already shot the shot before this and the one after, and in the shot after this we had forgot to put the hat on, the party hat on the creature's head, and it has taken us like 4 or 5 days to do the shot that comes after this. So we didn't really want to redo it, but also the hat needed to disappear at some point during this shot. And because in this shot he's just supposed to like sit and wait and he doesn't want to open the door that rings, we just thought that we can just make it more awkward, the waiting, by like that the hat is just like slowly sliding off the creature and falling down. And like if we hadn't made that mistake and like came up with that like weird idea in the moment, which sometimes this like weird stuff you can't really like plan them when you write the story, they just like come along. So I think this just made the shot like much more better than it would have been originally if we hadn't made the mistake. So I'm going to show you how it turned out. So yeah, this is something like I'm always struggling with, and you can't do it completely in stop motion, but I'm trying to like, I don't have all the answers yet, but I'm trying to find out like how you can try to be spontaneous a bit with while doing stop motion, because I like both of that aspects. And yeah, when we graduated we were quite lucky, and the film got really well, and we got some awards, and we got to travel to festivals, and I think it was really, I was very lucky because it like gave me much easier to like enter the industry, because I think the animation industry can be really hard in the beginning to get your first job if you don't have experience, and you do internships, and like once you started to work normally it goes well, like once you know some people and you have some jobs, but it can be really hard to like and slow to get those first jobs. So I was quite lucky that like our film did well, and I think that gave me like a quick push into the work life. And after that I moved back a couple of years, worked for a couple of years in Sweden, where I'm from, and I worked on like a lot of different projects: After Effects animation, 2D animation, some stop motion series. I worked mainly as an animator, and I got like a few direction commissions, but they were like really, really low budget. And here's a few stills from the very low budget stuff that we made. But after a few years, I like started to get the jobs that was like needed in the industry in Stockholm, where I was from, and it was like doing After Effects jobs, maybe for kids shows, and like that was fun, but it wasn't really like why I studied animation. I missed to like have a bigger creative role, or like to direct things, or like be more creative and be able to take more decisions, and also like rather than like jumping around with all of different mediums that like was needed, and then I didn't get like really good at any of them. I just wanted to like become much better at stop motion and like advance myself in stop motion so I could get more jobs in that. And yeah, I just felt like I was just like standing still for some time and just like taking jobs, but it wasn't really why I studied animation, but I was still doing animation, so maybe I should be thankful because I got jobs. But in the end I felt like I was like along the wrong path, and I wanted to direct more and do more of my own work. So I just like stopped saying yes to some jobs, and I just applied to like, I know that they were doing a feature film in Norway, and I applied as an animator. And I worked there in a feature film called Hakkebakkeskogen for 9 months. And it was really good. I learned a lot, like how you work on bigger productions and how things are being made and like scheduled and planned and technically, and like I got much better at animating. And after that I didn't want to like move back to Sweden and continue falling back to like what had been done before, so I wanted to work more on my personal projects and develop something on my own. But some people are really disciplined, but I'm not that disciplined. So if I don't like have any deadline or if it's just like, it's really hard for me to just sit down and write a film and then try to get it produced. Like, and I wasn't there yet to like have those skills, so I applied to the RCA to study like a 2-year MA not because like I didn't went there because I wanted to learn like how to animate or how to do animation, but I just like needed like to give myself 2 years where I could focus only on develop my own work, have a real deadline, get feedback from the tutors, and like being forced to produce stuff, like to get kicked to start like or pushed to start making that. And I also choose the RCA because I think I really like their like approach to filmmaking, and that they're a bit more open, like about storytelling, and it doesn't need to be like in the film school that you follow one character until the end and it's like happy ending. It's like their really artistic approach to like storytelling, which I really liked. So my first year film that I did there was called Enough, and for this film I was like I think I was inspired by moving to the like being at the RCA as well. That was like more open approach to storytelling, but I wanted to try something that wasn't like a classic narrative or like a way of storytelling that I hadn't worked with before. And also because this was like my first year film, it was like less important than my second year film in a way, because everyone would like look at the second year film and we would exhibit that one more. So I thought that I would just like have fun and play around more on this one and just like maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but I could take a bit more risks. And I wanted to do something like, I like things that are very mundane, but I wanted to do something that is mix like of something very mundane and something very dramatic and epic, and that combination. And I had like, I wanted to do something else about someone like having enough and like quitting their job in a very dramatic way, or like doing something where like they break out from the very mundane. And at the same time I had just moved to London, and I was like taking the crowded tube in the morning every day. And I could like sense like some passive aggressive frustration in the air. And I just like started to think about like what do all these people that are really like crowded in the tube, what would they really like to do? And like when I was taking the train I was imagining like what was this guy, what does he really want to do? Or like what does everyone want to do if there is like no rules of how to behave, or like if there was like no consequences to our actions, or there was like no social rules, or like everything would be forgotten. Like what do we actually want to do on the inside? Because I think a lot of times we like contain ourselves or like behave properly. So that's like where like the film came together, and it's basically like a series of moments where people have enough and do like exactly what they want. So I'm going to show you the film and talk a little bit about the process.
I kept it this. I think weekend card.
yeah, when I was developing the story, because it wasn't like a beginning to an end or like one main character, instead of writing like a normal script, I just like brainstormed all the ideas that I had that people could do. And then I started to like, a lot of them were similar, or they didn't work, or didn't have enough puppets, so I started to like sort them out until I had like a more reasonable bunch that I could work with. And once I had like all the different small ideas, I started to like draw them out and make a storyboard and put them together in an animatic. And like it was quite fun to work this way, but I didn't want it to feel like it's just different clips put after each other and then it's just like ends and it could have continued. I still wanted it to feel like there's some sort of like very vague story curve. So I started with like the more soft clips and then I went like more and more intense and also made them like shorter and shorter. And then I choose to like end it with a woman laying down because it felt like it was a bit more of an ending scene. And I also liked the idea of like, it was quite tempting to do like what would happen after, but that almost felt like another film. I thought it was quite nice to just like cut after they did their thing and then it's black and then you can imagine, like everyone can imagine for themselves what happened. And yeah, a few of my inspirations, I really like the Swedish director Roy Andersson. Some of his films, they have like really uncomfortable and long shots, and I think his films, they're very nice because they are like tragicomic in a way. They are like very like sad and existential, but they're also really like funny, or they show like both sides of humanity at the same time, which I'm also interested in doing. And I think that like working with like a still and very long shot also worked like for enough, because then it's like sort of almost like an anticipation for what's going to happen, like rather than if I would like cut and have different framing, and like it was just like it's more like a proper waiting for the action. And I also really like the work of Mark and Emma. I think their craft is amazing and they make really nice characters as well. And for this film, I really wanted the characters like to feel how you feel when you take the morning tube, or like to be like really imperfect and like anti-heroes, and just like how you would feel when you have a bad day. And like I wanted them to feel like normal people that are like a bit unhappy, or like, and I wanted them to be very simple but also feel like there's a lot of stuff going on inside of their head, but they're like a bit contained. And for this project, I was making most of the stuff by myself. My boyfriend helped me as much as he could when he was not working, so I would like cut and fit all the different fabrics, and then like I would pass them along to him, and he would like sew the stitches. So we would have like a sewing factory at home. And also because I had like very little time for this project, I had 6 months, but if you do stop motion almost by yourself, that's like nothing. And I was also doing what like everyone tell you not to do in stop motion, which is like to do a lot of sets and a lot of puppets. And so I couldn't actually do, like, I think it's 28 characters in the film, and I couldn't do all of them. So I did like 8 characters, and then when I finished one shot, I cut off the hair, I glue on new hair, and I swap around like the head and the bodies to create new characters, because it was like the only way I could do it was just by reusing them. And also because there was so little time, I also reused like the buildings and just put them in different angles and a different order, and I had to keep like all the sets really minimalistic, like more minimalistic or simple than I had done before. But I was quite happy that I was forced almost to do that, because I think it fitted the style more, and I sort of found a style that I like, that I think I wouldn't have found if I didn't have to like limit myself in that way. And I think like a lot of times in stop motion you can be drawn to like add a little picture frames and a little this and a little, because you get like sometimes like blinded by the craft and you want to do a lot of stuff and you want to fill the frame with a lot of stuff. But I think I almost like think it's fun to do the opposite and just like challenge myself like how little I can put in the frame and still like make it real, like a real world. And then you can also like focusing on maybe framing the characters or on the action, which like for me is almost more interesting. And like another, coming back to like improvisation, another like funny thing with this is that I hadn't actually planned for the guy with the phone to like look at the people laying down. I thought he was just gonna look at the phone, but then when I started to animate, I was like, it's actually much more fun if he doesn't know what to do and he thinks it's really weird, and he looks at them and the other girl that didn't notice and he looks back at them. So like all of that, I just like when I started to animate, I saw this would actually fit, and I did that. And like if you do really small projects or personal projects, you can do that, but then it's more, the bigger budget you work with, the harder it is, because then that has to need to be confirmed by someone if you have a client, and you can't really like be spontaneous in the same way. And yeah, I was really lucky with this film as well. It's got a lot of attention and exposure, and I got a lot of jobs out from that film. And I think the funniest thing has been that many people like got in touch and been like, oh, I always wanted to do this as well, or like, I always wanted to do that. I'm so happy to see that someone did it. So it's been really nice. And I did this film as my first year film at the RCA, and in the summer in between I worked like a couple of months at the Isle of Dogs and did some animation. And it was like really the opposite of working, because when I was doing enough, I was working like most of the time by myself in a dark basement, and I was like having all of the roles myself. Like I was like set builder, puppet maker, animator, like I was doing everything. And when an Isle of Dogs, it was like 100 people working, and it's different department, and it's very like organized. And it was really nice in a way to just have responsibility of this little thing rather than like for everything in the whole project. But it was also weird when you're like used to be so hands-on, and then it would be like if you're an animator, then you cannot like glue stuff on the set, because in stop motion you have to like glue everything in the set so you don't accidentally knock it down. As you glue, like if it's a table, and all the objects on the table, and if you needed to glue something, you needed to call a third AD that needed to call someone from set department that come with a glue gun and put a little dot of glue gun and then go away. Which like I understand, because they don't want like maybe the animators to be responsible if something breaks. Like it's like a reason for it, but like coming from like doing everything yourself, it's like very opposite. But it was very fun, and it's like was great sets and great people working on it, and very talented people. And then I went back to the RCA and I did my second year film, which is more like a drama thriller. It's called Good Intentions, and it's about a woman who is responsible for a car accident, and then she just like panics and drives away, and she feels really guilty about it and starts to imagine what happened to the other driver, and then like, some spooky things starts to happen. I don't have time to show you the whole film, but if you email me I can send you a link. And for this project, I had a little bit more time than enough, but it was still like not that much more, but it was really ambitious, and I was like bringing in more people to work with me, so we were like a small crew helping me out, and it was like my first experience of like, we were maybe 5 people or something, but it was my first experience like working with a group of people that I had to direct and like be on top of everything. And it was really good experience, and it was really fun, but it was like, looking back, I was like, it was very ambitious. I think like it's good to try to always make things like more simple than you think that you need, because the projects always grow, and they like, it was like I had to do a lot in very compressed time. And also when you work by yourself, you can like be a bit more flexible with like your time. So you like if you delay something, it just means that you need to work more later on. But if you have worked with 5 people, you can't really delay anything, because then they're not going to have anything to do, and then next week they maybe not be there. So you like have to take decisions faster and like work in a different way, which is like good experience to learn, good practice. And yeah, I'm just going to show you a few stills. And yeah, then after I graduated, this is not from the same film. So I'm going to show you just a few commissions that I have done after I graduated. So this was like just after I graduated, I was asked to do a short animation for a music video. And the directors asked like many different animators to just do like a short clip each, and it was quite a lot of freedom, just a few guidelines how to do it. And I really wanted to make someone like dancing, so I decided to do a sexy lion that is dancing. And for this, it was like almost no budget either, and because like in stop motion everything costs money, so you need to like find ways around it. So I actually reused like an old body, I think it was from Enough maybe, and I like made a new head and did a new shirt for him. So I didn't have time or budget to like make a new puppet from the beginning. And I had just graduated, so I didn't have any studio space, so I shot it like in my bedroom, which was very frustrating, but it was like I had to ask my cinematographer to come and like light it in like at my desktop, where I really went up, or like so on. So luckily now I have studio space, but that was like the only project I have to do like in my bedroom. And here's the clip. And it was really fun to animate. I'm really not good at dancing and I don't know so much, so I had to ask a friend to like make some reference videos for me. So she and her sister did like a couple of reference videos that I like edited together and used like a reference for this. So I'm very thankful for them for sending me that. And yeah, after I graduated, I got like represented by Passion Pictures quite straight away after, and I was really happy and excited for that because I wanted to, like, my reason for going to the RCA was because I wanted to do more directing jobs, I wanted to be more director, and also I wanted to focus more on my, like, do personal projects and so on. So being represented by Passion was really good because it could mean that I could do bigger budget projects that I wouldn't get if I was just one person, and also, like, yeah, I could get to be more director. So it was. And my first job that I did with Passion was for Greenpeace France. I love Greenpeace, so I was like really happy when they contacted me, and they actually had seen enough online, and they were going to do a Christmas advert, and they were wondered if I can like do something in a similar tone. And sometimes I would be like careful, just like to give my style exactly away, like to a brand or something. Like then I maybe would like do something similar to my style, but do something specifically for them, because I don't want like them to like buy my style, sort of. But Greenpeace wanted something quite similar to enough, and like I think that I love Greenpeace and like I like everything that they stand for. So I was happy to like I didn't have to change my style so much. Like I felt like I could do that with them. And yeah, basically they contacted me and asked if I could direct this film, and I said yeah I can, but I'm represented by Passion. So we will need to do, basically, if I'm represented by Passion, it means that like every commercial that I do, I will do with them, but I can still do like my own short films or like animation jobs or feature films or like whatever I would like to do, but all the commercials that I get is with them. So then I say if you're happy to work with Passion, and they were very happy to do that. So then we just like, they already had an idea for the film, and it was very little time before like it had to be made. But they had an idea of like a Christmas ad with a dark twist, and the subject was like pollution in the cities. And they had a script, so basically I had to like turn this script into a storyboard, refine the script, maybe do some changes to make it work better, and yeah, storyboard, do an animatic, and it was really little time, but like everyone worked really hard on it because it was Greenpeace. So this is like an example of how my storyboard would look like. It's not super detailed, but it was one of my storyboard friends for them. And yeah, this project we had really little time, and I think like what we needed to do was to have a really big crew to make it work, because with enough I had like 6 months, and with this we had 7 weeks, which is like almost impossible. But we were like a really big crew, and that basically was how we managed to do it. And this was something new for me, because I always do my puppets myself, and then I don't do like a final character design and then I try to copy that into a puppet, but I have a sketch and I have an idea, and then I do the puppet, and I see while I do it like how the hair would look funny or what would look nice. And now I had to draw like a lot of characters that someone then had to copy and make puppets from in my style. So that was really scary. Like if you do your own work, you know that you can be like a bit control freak sometimes, and it was like a bit scary to like. Also, I don't know if I can draw exactly like how I want the puppet to look like. I can have the image in my head, but now I had to learn like how to draw it and how to direct it. So it was really like I really learned a lot from there as well, like how to like work with other people and try to get them to understand your vision and like respect them as artists, but also be like try to get your vision through. And yeah, this is some of the designs that I made. Normally because I cannot draw like super realistic, I always find like pictures of the clothes that I want them to have, and then I draw the characters and like put the pictures next to them. That's how I often work. And the same was like with the sets, and when I do the sets, a lot of times I have a basic idea, and then while I'm making it, I like come up with stuff as I go along in a bit, like as I go along. And now I also had to like decide everything from the beginning, so there was also something new to be like, okay, how many cakes do we need in the window? I'm like, oh, I don't know, I haven't seen the window yet. But then you have to like calculate all of that, while when you make it, you're like, oh, it will fit with 5 cakes, or like, oh, we can put something there, something is missing there. But now you have to be like, have a clear plan from the beginning. So this is the final film. Darker than enough, but I think the style suited, like they wanted something that felt a bit organic and like not super commercial or cheesy, or like a bit more like down to earth. And even though it was like so intense, it was like a really fun project, and like mainly for two reasons, and like, well, also obviously because it's for a great cause, and like it can be hard sometimes if you are like direct commissions, like where to draw the line of like what you would like to make an advert for, because it's a fun job. You get to be creative, you get to sort of tell a story, but sometimes maybe morally, like what you are doing advert for, you're like not 100% supportive of. But it's also a job. Like sometimes you have to like find a way to find like where your line is, like of which jobs you will take or not. But it was really fun because it was something that I was like really care about. And the other reason why it was really fun was like they really trusted me like as a director, so I could like basically take, like they had the story and a script idea, but from that, like from the design and from the characters and like how I wanted to storyboard it, I could do whatever I want. And a lot of times clients can be a little bit like that, they also want to direct a little bit, but here I feel like they were really like trusting a lot and respecting like me as a filmmaker, as a director, so it was really fun. And yes, behind the scenes. And like another thing that can be hard with stop motion is like I like to do small budget projects, but it costs like so much money to make stop motion. So you like I've been asked many times to do like hip hop music videos for some reason, and it would be like really fun. I would love to do it, but it's always people that has like, and music videos normally has like a small budget, and there's like people that doesn't have that big budget. And like even though how much I want to do it, for me like I need to rent like equipment, I need to buy the materials, I need to build all the stuff, and if I need to build it like in a decent time, I need to bring in like 1 or 2 more people at least, like to build them with me, so it doesn't take like many months. So in the end, like even if it's a low budget and I would love to do it, so many times I have to say no, just because like what the cost is would just be like I would go minus from doing it, because I need to pay people and I need to pay materials and so on. So that's can be a bit frustrating sometimes, because I would love to make a hip hop music video. And another job that I did with passion was like for Honesty, and I co-directed it with another director that called Mark Waring. And this was the first time I did like, because the Greenpeace had quite low budget, but this was the first time I did something that had a bit bigger budget. And this was also like quite different, like I already made them like a bit more. Like, can you do something even more abstract? So then we decided, instead of like me just like taking up the level of like abstractness a little bit each step, because who knows like how many times they would ask that, and like they didn't know exactly what they wanted, so they were like looking for us to give them some answer of what they wanted. So instead of like doing them a little bit more abstract and a little bit more abstract, I did like one that was really abstract that I knew that they would think is too much, and then I did one that was like in between this one and the really abstract, so then they wouldn't keep asking me to do like more and more, but they could more like see on a scale like where they wanted the characters to be. So this was like the really abstract. And of course they were like, oh, they're nice, but they're a little bit too abstract. So then I did this, which was like between the more human and the very abstract. But in the end, the guy to the right was a bit too obese as well. So we had to like keep them quite slim. But it was like a fun process in a way, because I think if I would just like someone just tell me, oh, do some characters, I would do it like how I normally do them. But because they pushed me so much, I like did something that I wouldn't have like pushed myself to do. So it was like in a way like a fun way to explore different styles. And then after we like normally like we would do the designs, we agreed on the storyboard, and then we went to a studio with like model making studio. And normally if I do my own films, I like to make stuff. I like to work with more people as well to go faster, but I like to make stuff. But if you're directing a commercial, it's like really little time, and like just being on top of everything and directing things and responding to things and so on is like a full-time job. So this was all made by really talented like model makers, and when they were making stuff, even though I was giving them designs and so on, there's like always millions of questions about like small stuff that you haven't thought about. So I was on the place all the time when they were making it, and just like working there and directing and doing stuff. So it was really fun. Here's a few more like making of from this.
What materials did you use in the end?
So we sculpted the heads in clay, and then we casted them and like sandpaper them a bit to give them like a bit of like rough texture, and like hand painted them. So we didn't want them to be like super slick. Maybe it's not visible here, but like we didn't want them to feel like like shiny and plasticky. So we just used something that has like a little bit more rough texture, and then we kept like the felt hair. And yeah, it was really fun to make. There's some more from the shooting. And also like we did like to fake, because it was supposed to be like a big peach plantation, but in order to fit all of that, like we would need a huge space. So you often do like in stop motion that you fake the perspective. So you put like the hills in the back that is supposed to look like really big hills. So you just do everything like you build it smaller and smaller the further away it goes from camera. And there was one of the little sheeps. And this is also online if you want to see. I don't have time to show like too much stuff. And that was like pretty much like my career from when I started until now, in like a short overview. And I think it's really fun to do like commercials and commissions and different kinds. I would love to do more like for Greenpeace and those sort of like subjects, and also to do like personal work and so on. So I think like that's like the new challenge for me, is like try to see how I can balance to like develop personal things and my own short films and my own things, but also like to get to work on a project, because it's nice because they're quite contrasts. Because when you do a personal project, you go into yourself a lot. It's very like personal, you are a bit vulnerable, you have to sit alone and you have to think, and you develop something, and someone like has to like it or like to get money or not. And when you do a commission, you get like a clear brief, like we want you to do this, can you please do this? And then you have like something very specific that you're being creative around, and there is already a budget and people are helping you, and there's like normally very intense but like short time. But so they are quite opposite. So it's like I'm interested in how like to manage to do both of them in a way, like to do your own projects, but also now and then maybe be able to take commissions. And And I was thinking also if I have like any advice or anything. It's hard to like. I think like it's probably different if you do 2D or if you do stop motion or if you animate or if you direct. But I thought about like a few things that I have learned or that I'm still learning that I think is like quite important and interesting. So yeah, like one thing I'm learning is like to not put like 200% in every job that I get, because it's like I'm like that if I get a job, I want to do my absolute best on it, and not only to prove to the other person, but like for me, that I want to like do the absolute best that I can do for everything, or like I want my last project to be my best project, or I want like to deliver something that's like it's really good. But a lot of times there is no time or budget for me to make the best that I can do, like for you to make the best that you know that you can do, and then you like will compensate by working really late or working really hard, and like sometimes it's good to do that, but I think like what I'm learning is like to choose those projects where you are like, okay, this I want to do really, really good, I'm gonna invest my evenings in this, or I'm gonna invest like my extra energy in this, and then sometimes you just have to be like, I'm going to do my best, but with the time and the money that I have. So I'm not going to like work late every evening. I'm going to do like the best from the circumstances, and it's not going to be like the best project that I have ever made, but it's because the conditions was not there. And I think it's like, for me, it's really good to learn to like, because it's going to turn out nice anyway, and the things that you were going to work late for and tweak this stuff or do this stuff, anyway, the client or whoever, they didn't know about this stuff. Like, anyway, it's going to turn out to a nice project. Like it's that we like push ourselves to always like be like 100% best at stuff. So I think it's like really good to sometimes just think like, okay, I'm going to do what I have from the time and the money that I have. And also like to think how you can simplify stuff like in your project. Like projects always takes like double as long time as you think, always, like whenever you plan. So always like try to like almost plan for half of the time that you have, or like try to simplify. And if you do something simple, you can do it nicer and you can spend a bit more time on it rather than just like managing on time. And like another thing that I'm still learning is like if you're a director, you need to be demanding. And I don't like to be demanding, I like to be nice to people, and if people make stuff, I want to say, oh, this is really nice, or like be appreciative to them. And like, I think I'm learning for every project, but like, that you can be nice, but you can also be demanding. And in the end, like, as a director, it's your vision, like you are the only one that can like put the vision through. If you don't do it, no one else is gonna do it, and you have to like, you are the only one who know like, who can imagine how you want it in the end. So it's like, I'm learning to say like, no, maybe change it, like, all right, but it can be hard if someone builds something and they spend 5 hours and they show it to you and say, what do you think? And maybe you think it's wrong and you have to say, oh, I'm sorry, but it's not supposed to be like this, can you change this and this? And a lot of times there might be someone else who's worried about schedule and they were like, no, we should say that this is good, and you just have to learn like, to be like, no, I want this to be changed, this have to be like this. And it's like, in the beginning I could find it a bit hard to be annoying, because in a way you are annoying, but that's also like your job in a way as a director, as long as you're like respectful to the people that you work with and explain to them maybe why you want to change something. And I think in the end, because this is going to be in the environment, this is going to look much better if this looks like this, and like, as long as you respect them and being nice to them and they're being paid, I think it's fine to be like, to dare to be like a bit more annoying and like demand things, or like step down your foot and say, no, I need more time for this, or no, we have to do like this, or this have to be like that. So I think that's a good thing to like try to push yourself if you're directing, to be comfortable with, still of course in a respectful way. And also what I think is good is like to sometimes take a step back and like think about your whole work as like a whole, and like if you're going in the direction that you want to do, because a little bit like how it was for me in Sweden was that I was taking the jobs that was available, and suddenly I was just like following the needs of the industry in a way, but I was like, it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. But it's easy to like be thankful for jobs and you don't know when you're going to get the next job, but like if you have the luxury, or when you have the luxury to like take a step back and think like, is like, now I've done a few jobs, is this like going in the direction I want, or like is there some jobs that I should say no to so I don't suddenly start doing all of this stuff, or like is there some stuff I really want to do? How can I like start doing those stuff more? Because it can be really easy to just like be really focused in the current job that you're doing now, and once you're finishing it, you're like, okay, what is my next job? How I'm gonna get money next time? And then you're very into that job, so it's like good to like, yeah, just like take a step back and like think of like what you want to do, because there's many stuff you can do like in animation. And like another thing, of course, like it's like just to put yourself out there, and like I have like mixed feelings about that sentence or saying that stuff, but like I notice a lot of times that it's like I have some guys who do a good job, they do a nice work, but they're really proud of it, and they go out there and they talk really good about themselves. They contact the industry, they contact the like production companies, they like speak really well about like their projects. And then at the same time, I've seen a woman who does something that I think is actually better than the guy's work, but a lot of times she's like, no, I'm gonna do something better, like, and then I'm gonna put it on my website, or like, no, this is really not good enough, or like, I don't know, it's not like super professional, I don't know if I should contact them, or like, I don't want to be annoying. And it's not always like that, but I have seen it like sometimes, and I think that like I'm the same in one sense. I'm like, I don't know if I should post this, or should I show this, or should I contact them? But I think like it's good to just do it, because just think that there's like so many people that are not so good that are doing it, and they're being seen. So why shouldn't you put your stuff out there if like they are doing it? And yeah, like, but I also like I think that is like a part of the truth. I'm thinking about like why there's like more male directors or like male animators and so on. And I think like a part of the truth maybe is this, that like guys are a lot of times more like proud of their work, while women maybe are a bit more like, I don't know, like less comfortable to be like braggy. I don't know, but I think it's also not like, it's not the whole truth, or like you shouldn't like put this like to an individual level, that like, oh, if you're just like as a confident as a guy, then you're gonna get jobs and everything is gonna be like super equal. I think it's also like the industry that like don't like trust women as much with the same much money, or like if they a woman and a man would have like the same experience, I would think that it was like they often would like trust the guy with a bigger budget, or like to do something like that. So I think it's not like an individual thing either, it's like the industry, but I think it's slowly changing, but maybe not fast enough, but I think it's changing, and I'm trying to think about it like to hire more women, or like to always ask to have like 50-50 crew if you're working on something, or like if you work at a production company, you can ask like why it's not more women. It's like it's good to like keep like having this like to be a normal conversation. And yeah, then it's also really important just to like not work all the time, and like take care of yourself, and like take it easy, and see your friends, and exercise, and enjoy your life, and not like work yourself too hard. And it's like I have been there, like I work really hard on a project, and then I'm like, next time I'm gonna have like a healthy work project where I'm gonna finish at 6 o'clock and I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna exercise, see my friends, go out for drinks, do this. But then next project comes and you're like, oh, this is so much, there's so little time. This time I'm gonna work a bit hard now, but then next time I'm gonna do like this. And I think like at some point you just have to be like, if you're not established like a healthy like way of working now, when will you do it? Because you will always have projects or get fun stuff, so it's just good, like I'm trying to find ways to balance that. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say.